This year, almost 29,000 school pupils and more than 77,000 households took part in the Big Plastic Count. Some of those schools are here today with a message for their MP: cut plastic production.
Our planet is full of the plastic and it's not very good for people, for animals, for fishes. When I was doing the tally chart, I didn't really see what was going to happen and stuff. In my whole house for a week, I collected 81 pieces of plastic.
1.7 billion pieces of plastic thrown away every week. We had to write the figure on the board because it was just so huge we couldn't contemplate how much that actually is.
It's been an incredible moment to have the pupils who have participated in the Big Plastic Count actually take their results in to grill their MPs and ask them exactly what they're going to do about the plastics crisis.
I would like you to help us to support supermarkets to wrap things in different materials.
The plastic bags start out as fossil fuels and end up as deadly waste in landfills and oceans.
It'd be good if they use a different material other than plastic, to package fruit.
If you throw away our plastic, sometimes it ships off to a poor country.
Oh yes.
And then sometimes that's how it gets in the water.
Well, I think there are lots of things that have been talked about but not done. So, for example, deposit schemes or increasing rates of recycling. But we need to get into more of a circular economy so we're not producing so much waste in the first place.
To see some of the work that the young people have done, it's absolutely brilliant. They get it and there is hope for the future.
I've written a speech and this is the best part of it. The fact is that the UK needs to do more. We may be a small island, but we as children have a large voice and we need to send this message across our great country.
The results of the Big Plastic Count show our leaders that we need a strong global plastics treaty. Thanks to all the schools and households who took part in the Big Plastic Count this year. Together, we will cut plastic for good.